Okay, last week we talked about Jews entering history and the Jewishness of Jesus, chosen people versus the chosen nation, and I got a little feedback from some guys that I know, and Frank in Florida. Yeah, Frank is from Jamaican and Italian roots. But, and I got some guys in, my frat brothers in New York. One is a police officer, a detective, and I'm trying to get him to come onto our program because I do want to talk about 911. I remember him telling me the stench of the bodies in 911. He was a police officer during that time. But anyway, so that's the feedback. Today I want to get into the prison industrial complex. Something I can talk about with more confidence because I worked in the prison for 3 years, and this is a letter. As a matter of fact, all these are letters that I got working with inmates. Some of them are letters that I got when I was in the system, some after. One is a survey I did at Saginaw Valley State, Saginaw Correctional Facility in Saginaw, Michigan. I went up there and spoke to the Muslims. There are 2 million inmates in black and Latino or Hispanic inmates in federal and state prisons. That's a large population. That population could repopulate many urban centers. Can you imagine the labor and the wealth and of that population? But the opposite side of that is that there are people who want to exploit that labor, and so there are people who write articles about the prison industrial slave connection. Slavery is an old issue, but slaves had rights. But the inmates, the prison industrial companies, they know that inmates cannot strike. They know that they don't have to pay equitable labor costs. And so this industry is now contracting youth homes, police departments. All of this is connected. And they even say that they project prison cells based on 3rd grade reading scores. If a 3rd grader cannot read, then they are saying that 3rd grader is highly likely going to be incarcerated. And they can project that, and they do it every day. These are social scientists who do this. So we need to be aware of that they call it the pipeline to prisons, from the 3rd grade to the county jail to prison. And then when you get to prison, you have a full human being who can work. Yeah, okay, so and 16%, according to this article, the prison industry in the United States, big business or a new form of slavery. 16% have mental illnesses. 16%. So we're challenged as a society to come up with better ways of dealing with crime and punishment. Many of these guys, these black and Latinos inmates, are there for non-violent offenses. You can deal with aberrant behavior besides locking people up. But if you lock people up, then that is a class of people you can exploit. Let's look at some of these numbers. Let's be tutored by the facts, according to this article. These industries, they're privatizing prisoners, and this offers an incentive to law enforcement people to lock up more people. And this is what they get when they get locked up. These guys make 100% of military helmets, ammunitions, belts, bulletproof vests, ID tags, shirts, pants, tents, bags, and canteens. 93% of all paints and brushes are made by your inmates. 92% of the stove assemblies, they're made by inmates, black and Latino inmates. 46% body armor, 36% home appliances, 30% headphones, microphones, speakers, 21% of office furniture. Now, when I was a chaplain in the prison system, it was my duty to visit the tailor shop. This letter that this guy wrote me, he said, look, Reverend Robinson, you were passing through the tailor shop. And if you go to Google and you put in there Clinton Prison, you see the area, you see the area view, you see a building about a block long. And I would go from inmates on one end are making t-shirts, pillowcases. Then I go through another door. They are fixing cars. I mean, a whole garage full of cars. You go through another door, and they're fixing bicycles. And then if you look at the area view up in the corner, you may not see it up there, but they have a farm up there. They have chickens, because this was upstate New York. This was in the farming community. I remember when the local telephone company comes there, think about the roads that they have to build, the telephone wire that they have to send up in that mountain. When the telephone people came there to put in a new telephone in the prison system, they had a guard standing there with this guy all day long. I mean, this is money on top of money. And could you imagine if we have to think hard about how this industry is exploiting the criminal justice system, and we have proof also that this prison industry can be helpful to the local black and Hispanic communities. Now in Colorado, there's a state representative by the name of, I forget his name, but he wants to audit the Department of Corrections in the state of Colorado because they have an agricultural program up there. What is his concern? Is inmate labor a violation of labor laws? We have to ask that question. Is this cruel and unusual punishment? I remember when I was a chaplain going into the commissary and looking at the tuna fish and looking at how much the inmates had to pay. I think it was, at that time, it was $2. And I know for a fact, I said, man, you're paying more than I'm paying. And I got a job. So they're paying more for tuna fish. Now here in Colorado, they have a fish farm in Colorado that the inmates run that is putting the other fish farms out of business. And so this Colorado state legislator is saying that, hey, we have to audit this department. It's called the State of Colorado Department of Corrections, their agricultural program. Now, Dr. Claude Anderson came to Detroit. Dr. Claude Anderson is from Detroit. Dr. Claude Anderson deals with a lot of stats, and he wrote a book called Powernomics. He came to Detroit, he looked at the land here in Detroit, and he came up with ideas. Interestingly, he did not get a welcome reception from the then mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, but he came here to Detroit to look at how we could grow the city, or grow black wealth in the city. And one thing he looked at was an agriculture-based industry, which includes an inner-city seafood factory. He found out that African Americans are more likely to buy seafood and sea products. So that was one way. He was trying to come here and establish an agricultural-based industry to deal with seafood. What is the competitive advantage of that? The industry is built around high consumption of seafood by Black Americans and their high spending patterns. So we have the numbers to justify the fact that economic slavery is happening right here in the city of Detroit. So again, the former mayor had a chance to meet with Dr. Claude Anderson to restart a fish industry here in the city. Isn't it interesting that the prison population, full of Black men and Hispanic men for nonviolent crime, how much more could our cities grow with that type of population connecting with government and making something new and different and fresh happen so that we can survive and we can live well?